We are right back at it with you guys again, all TCU fans. Welcome back to the Purple Rain podcast. As always, my name is Michael Trout. Let me back up. Let me give you a visualization of what's going on here. My blood pressure is going in a good way. My energy is up. I am feeling great. I'm looking at Adrianna, looking at a special guest. As always, looking at some great faces, great people, but a special episode. I am amped after this weekend. I am. I mean, it was a great weekend for TCU. The women showed out. Back-to-back Big 12 champions, okay? Cam Lancaster, can't forget her. Cam, shout out Cam. TCU took care of business. Now I get to, complain to all my family that are Baylor Bear fans that grew up in Waco and everything. Personal something in life happened big time yesterday. Happy about that. But let me introduce y'all to the most interesting person on the show, obviously. Adrianna Araujo, my second host. How are you doing? How was the weekend?
It was awesome. I mean, I got to go to the game. I just had a really good feeling about it. I know a lot of my friends, unfortunately, were like, it's Baylor. They have a good record. And I was like, guys, we got to go. We got to go. They're like, yeah, I think we'll just leave at halftime though. And I was like, come on, we got to stick through it. Let's go. And so luckily I was able to entice a few friends to come with me. But awesome weekend. That's something I'll never forget for sure. So I'm doing great. Some awesome memories, being able to rush the field, all of that. I'm feeling good. Definitely great for me.
Well, now that we know Adrianna is the activist on TCU campus, okay? Activist for TCU football. Guys, not only was this a special weekend, not only is this a special show, but we have a special guest. This man, I've been listening to him for the last 5 years, him and Jeremy Clark over on FrogCast. Don't worry, Jeremy's coming on soon. I promise you guys that. But I got to get to it, man. Geoff Mitchell, welcome to the Purple Rain podcast, sir. It is a pleasure to have you.
Oh, it is a pleasure to be here. It is always a good time to talk about TCU football. They say, may you live in interesting times. This is interesting times for TCU football, the first coaching change since 2000. And here we are to talk about it on the heels of a big win over our rival Baylor.
And it just went from special to depressing real quick. Just had to remind us that Gary Patterson was gone. But speaking of Gary Patterson, Geoff, I do have to ask, Adrianna and I spoke about it last week on our pilot show, but we want to get your insight on what your favorite moment through the whole Gary Patterson era. What was your favorite moment of his tenure?
Well, I'm old, so I've been there in the stands for the entire GP. I've been in there for the entire GP era. I remember his very first game against Southern Miss in a bowl game down in Mobile. I remember his first regular season game against Cincinnati, where we lost the game we should have won. So I go way back to Conference USA with Gary Patterson. I would go back to 2003. I think it was a Wednesday night game against Southern Miss, and the Frogs ended up winning the Conference USA that year. Southern Miss used to be what Boise State is now. People don't remember that. Southern Miss used to be the giant slayer. They beat Alabama. They were just killing everybody in the South. They brought a loaded team up. This was 2002. They brought a loaded team up there to Fort Worth on a weeknight, and TCU just annihilated them. The quarterback that annihilated them was Ty Gunn, who probably bounces to one of my other favorite memories in 2005, where they opened the season at Oklahoma. Oklahoma's first loss since before they won the national title in 2000. And to go up there and beat Adrian Peterson, beat Bob Stoops, you don't remember what the Big 12 South was before the SEC West became the SEC West. I mean, it was Mac Brown, Bob Stoops, Mike Leach going at it. I remember the years they were 1, 2, and 4 in the country. And TCU goes up there to Norman and just lays the wood to TCU. I mean, the TCU goes up there to Norman and lays the wood to OU. There's obviously the highlights of the Rose Bowl, of the Peach Bowl, of a couple of Alamo Bowls, but there's something like retro, old school about pre-Big 12 GP, where he'd just find all these two-star guys that used to play quarterback, put them on defense, and annihilate people 42-7.
I mean, he was doing that his whole tenure. He's done that forever. Just to recap, I'm only 23 years old, so I can't. You were in the stands while I was probably being born.
Yeah, I'm old. I'm 46, man. I remember when Bill Clinton was president.
Oh man, that is a long time ago. What a legendary moment for TCU at that point. I mean, that's when people finally heard of TCU. And then, of course, LaDainian Tomlinson came after that. We'll mention his name here in a little bit, but talking about favorite moments, I know Adrianna, her favorite moment was when she went down to the Rose Bowl. She got to meet the team, get autographs from them. My personal favorite was 2015, going into a year with a whole bunch of expectations, a whole bunch of national hype. You go through all this adversity, all these injuries, Mike Freeze, Sammy Douglas, your starting linebackers game one. Now they're out like a drive or two into the game. That's when we hear of Ty Summers for the first time, Traven Howard, Montrell Wilson. The whole year, adversity, and typical TCU, they rose above that adversity. So many injuries, so much controversy, and they capped it off with an insane, I was at that game, insane Alamo Bowl win over Oregon, who was very good at the time. So,
I was at the opening season game that year in Minnesota when we opened on a Thursday night that year. I got to witness with my own eyes the only time Mike Freeze ever played football for TCU. So the ghost of Mike Freeze, who was there for one game, starting as a true freshman and then left and never came back. It was like an episode of Lost.
Oh my gosh, man. Adrianna, real quick, do you want to explain your Rose Bowl trip?
Well, I actually didn't attend the Rose Bowl, but I explained that in the first episode. I didn't go, but whenever they came back, the whole team, I was able to get everybody's autographs, but we had season tickets. So that year, my whole family went to every game that year at home. And so all that whole season was awesome for me. But it's interesting hearing Geoff talk about those early moments and Gary Patterson's tenor, and just hearing about how getting those early wins and then seeing how it played out over the next 20 years, and just that was the forefront of something so incredibly special. And he never really stopped doing that. And I mean, at the time, obviously those were big moments, but he never stopped doing that. And we were always continued, he just kept continuing to do that. He took all these players and would just do these incredible things with these teams and just shock, I don't know, just underdog team. And I just love that about TCU. I love underdog storylines. That's one of my favorite things about sports. So yeah, just hearing Geoff talk about that, it was just really interesting, hearing about him doing it really early on and then seeing it play out over 20 years. And obviously it is sad that we're at the end of that now, but it is interesting to hear because, yeah, I mean, I was born in 2002, but just to hear about that is really cool.
Man, what history DFW has with underdogs. Tony Romo coming from Eastern Illinois, making the name he did. Dirk Nowitzki, some tall, skinny white boy from Germany, comes over and just sets the league on fire. NBA MVP, NBA champion. Luka Doncic is there now. Gary Patterson, LaDainian Tomlinson, Kyler Murray from Allen High School, too small to go to the NFL. Now he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league right now. So definitely DFW has a way of making you think that, man, these guys, they're so good. Definitely, again, I hate that we even have to talk about what was Gary Patterson's program, but now it's time to get into the start of a new era. We don't know who that new coach is yet, but before we get into the coaching conversations, we got to get into this past weekend's game, guys. I mean, emotion, blood pressure, maybe some people taking illegal substances in the middle of the game. I don't know, just to calm down. I don't know. But this game was insane between TCU and Baylor. Classic TCU Baylor. Classic rivals, everything. Geoff, I'll start it off with you, man, since you're the special guest. What did this win mean during, the players spoke about it, Chandler, Jerry, Quentin Johnston. they spoke about it, but what did, in your eyes, did this win over number 12 Baylor mean to you?
I was most excited for the players. They didn't ask for anything that we've had to deal with this season with the cloud around Coach Patterson and his tenure and obviously the departure. I was delighted to see them go out there and play without any pressure. You know, if you go back and watch Kansas State, you go back and watch West Virginia, they're playing tight. They're not playing free. And they're carrying the weight of what's all being embodied, and they're embodying in their bodies what's going on around the program. They obviously hated to see Coach Patterson go. And at the same time, it gave them a freedom to play like I think we all thought they should have been playing all year, which is we got better defensive line play. We were able to get down the field. You know, the rumor is that Meacham wanted to start Chandler Morris all year over Max, and Gary said no. Yeah, Jerry Kill says go start who you want. Chandler goes out there and lights it up. Like it was like Johnny Manziel without the the Adderall out there on the field. It was amazing to watch Chandler Morris light it up. He's fast and small and got a cannon, and obviously has been playing quarterback since he was about 2 years old. So I loved what I was able to see, and I think what I was excited about was for the players. They deserved that. And I know they said they played for GP. They were playing to thank him and have a lot of gratitude for what he's done in their lives. And I respect that and believe that. But I also think it gives us a glimpse of what the future is going to look like. I want to see an offense like that. You know, my only frustration with that game is they left about 17 points on the board and are on the field rather than on the board. And that's how it comes down to Shadrack Banks making a game-saving interception, where I think if all three of us are honest, we thought, oh, here it goes. They're going to go in and kick a field goal with 8 seconds left, and we're all going to walk off depressed and listen to dorky Baylor fans give us crap all week.
Yeah.
So I was happy for the players, relieved for the players, but I also think we got a glimpse of what a simplified defense can do and what an offense that's unhinged can do, where we're getting downfield, we're utilizing all the weapons that we have, and they did it without a running game. I mean, we're down to one scholarship running back the whole game, and I respect the heck out of DeMarcado, but he's not Foster. He's not Zach Evans. He's not Miller. And he still goes out there and does the dirty work. He's staying in pass protection. He's catching screen passes. He knows what he's doing. And I was just elated for the players and elated for the program.
Absolutely. Adrianna?
Yeah, going into this, there were definitely a lot of storylines. I kind of had a good feeling about this just because I thought with the departure of Gary Patterson, they'd be especially motivated to get this win for him. But going into it without Max Duggan, without Zach Evans, wasn't really sure how that was going to go. I don't know if y'all watched College Game Day, but I know on that, obviously everyone on the panel chose Baylor to win. Chris Felica is probably my favorite person on College Game Day, just because I think he brings a lot of new insight and statistics into it. I like to hear his picks, and he actually did choose TCU to win on Saturday morning. And so hearing that, I was like, all right, so let's see how this goes. But yeah, the whole game, I was super excited. Chandler Morris, he played amazing. I just think the future of TCU football looks really bright going forward. He played awesome. I mean, I was just the whole game, a roller coaster of emotions. Like Geoff said, I was super nervous at the end, but I think it seemed very fitting that the defense saved the game at the end, especially with that's Gary Patterson's thing. So I think that was just so fitting, and it just felt like a right way for the game to end. And then another thing is, I think it's also really awesome how all week, you heard about how he helped them prepare for this game, and it definitely showed. And yeah, it was just a solid team win. Everyone stepped up, everyone played their role. But yeah, I think the future of TCU football looks really bright. But it was just an awesome game. Super fun.
That interception by Shadrack Banks, that literally gave me flashbacks of Paul Dawson's pick six against Oklahoma. That just, even though it wasn't a pick six, in the moment of where the game is, you have crazy turnovers, you have back-to-back scoring drives, everyone's answering each other. it is a big game, and another linebacker makes a game-saving interception. And shout out Shadrack Banks, man. He's had a bad rap, unfortunately, especially at Texas A&M. Comes here, gets his stuff lined out, and makes a big play. We haven't even seen him that much, but my overall thoughts, man, it was obvious that these players, they were disappointed and they were sad to see Gary Patterson go. But it's almost like, even though it's time for a change, it doesn't make it that much easier. It doesn't. This guy has been recruiting them since they were 15, 16 years old. Him and the staff have been in their homes. They've gone to their games, talked to their high school coaches, gone to see them work out, the whole 9 yards. So the relationship built, we have no idea what that's like. But one thing that I admire about this team is that they showed, usually, how some fan bases react when a coach is let go or a player is let go, and they show it. They don't like that coach. They don't like that player, like Oakland did with John Gruden, what they did with Antonio Brown. But with the way TCU responded, it showed everything that a Gary Patterson recruited team should show. Heart, resilience, everything about that just made me proud. Hell, I thought we was about actually going to the championship for a quick second. Then I'm like, oh, we're 4-5. That's probably gone by now. But it was such a proud. As just a regular TCU fan, I was excited in my room. I was watching it on my phone the entire time until I got back home because I had to do a job on Saturday. Got back home, turned on the TV. It was standing room only for me. Honestly, it was just standing room only. So what a special win. What a special win. But Geoff, you mentioned it earlier. Chandler effing Morris, man. Oh my goodness. I know you are a minister. My uncle is a minister. I will watch my mouth. Special. The swagger, the intensity, the playmaking, the accuracy, the vision, the footwork, everything you could have wanted to see, you saw it. So please talk to us how special Chandler Morris was.
I want to give you 2 words. Bram Kohlhausen. Was that not a similar performance where you're like, now, wait a minute, who is this guy? Mm-hmm. If his last name was Chandler Bing, we wouldn't know that he was Chad Morris's son.
Right.
He wouldn't have that weight that comes with it. Now, obviously, Bram Kohlhausen came up through JUCO in Houston and landed at TCU. And Chandler Morris was at Highland Park and then to Oklahoma and TCU, which is a little different social status there. Uh-huh. But there was something about that game that just said he's determined to win. And he is not afraid to take risks. He's not afraid to run the ball. He's not afraid to put the ball in tight places. And he had an offensive coordinator that matched his willingness to take some risks. And so what I appreciated about Chandler Morris is, all right, so let's go back to that last drive where the Frogs shank a field goal. Mm-hmm. But, they're driving south. They run that speed option towards the TCU sideline. Right. He gets hit in the back of the head. He flips around and comes back the other sideline, picks up 26 yards. He gets it about 17 yards down the field. He's smart enough to swerve back in, stay in bounds, doubles up the ball to where he can't be stripped, and stays in bounds and gets the first down. So he keeps the clock running. He makes sure that we get down into field goal range, trying to set up a score, and the ball is not going to be fumbled on his watch. And those are things that just make you say, he's been preparing for this moment his whole life, even though he's a redshirt freshman out there in the first crunch time he's probably faced since his senior year at Highland Park. So what you see in Chandler Morris is, he obviously wants to throw the ball. He knows how to throw the ball in tight places, but he's not going to cost you the game. And I appreciate that. It's that combination of gambler as well as I'm not going to make a knuckleheaded play. And that's exactly what you want in a quarterback.
Adrianna?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Geoff. Like, I love a player that even if they're not getting the reps that they want in a game, they're staying mentally prepared, physically prepared in case that moment does arise. And you can definitely tell that he's been doing that. Like, he's in practice, in games, like he's been on the sidelines and he's been reading the playbook. He's been preparing and getting ready. It kind of like at the game, it kind of reminded me, like, obviously not exactly the same situation, but it gave me kind of like the vibe of like what was going on when like at OU, Spencer Rattler like threw the interception. And then, you know, the crowd was chanting like, we want Caleb. Obviously they switched to Caleb Williams. He does awesome. And then he's like the starter. And then I think Spencer Rattler entered the transfer portal. I'm not exactly positive on that. But I know, like, obviously different situation, but like Chandler Morris started and I was in the student section, and the whole game, like even from the first quarter, everyone was like chanting his name and like all in on him. But I think everyone in like the stadium could just tell there was like a different vibe about him, and that he's been ready for this moment and like just 100% prepared. And I think just his ability to read the fields and be in like read the plays before they happen was so spot on. There were a few near interceptions, but besides that, he did like such a good job. But I mean, that's to be expected too. I mean, like this was his first start at TCU. But besides that, like he was great, put the ball exactly where it needed to be. A lot of them was like threading the needle. I was super impressed, and I'm really excited on the future for sure.
I mean, the biggest thing with Chandler, oh man, where do I even start? Ever since I heard that he was coming to TCU, after a very slow process, a very arrogant process on Lincoln Riley's side, he finally got released. And I was just curious. I'm like, will he battle Max Duggan? I'm very, very eager to find that out. And of course, he didn't. Gary Patterson is very loyal to his players. So Chandler never really saw a chance, as you mentioned earlier in the show, Geoff. But when word got out that, okay, Chandler might be starting this weekend, I'm just like, okay, so now we're going to see a different quarterback. The things that I've harped on about for Max Duggan, a lot of inconsistent play. He's very good, you know, spot on passes from like 10 yards from the line of scrimmage, 15 yards from the line of scrimmage. He's spot on. But I feel like in games against SMU, against Texas, against Kansas State, even in the win against Texas Tech, there were times where he just missed a wide open Quentin Johnston, a wide open Zach Evans, overthrew him, underthrew him. And it's just like something is holding this offense back from reaching its full potential. And even some of the stuff that Adrianna just harped on, Chandler, it was like the difference between him and Max was night and day for me. I mean, reading the defense pre-snap, he already knew where he wanted to go. He already knew. You can't tell me that you grab the ball, take a step back and sling it like you don't know what's going on. He is so smart. He knows what the defense is doing. He likes the matchups. He knows his guys. And the anticipation, the footwork, the vision downfield, the consistent accuracy is what got me. That is what got me. I mean, every single pass was spot on, other than the few balls that Adrianna mentioned that could have been picked. I think one of them was actually just a good play on the DB from Baylor. But the consistent accuracy, the vision, the pocket presence, the resiliency, the legs, leads me to my next question, Geoff and Adrianna. Going forward, is Chandler Morris your starting quarterback? Maybe for the rest of the season, and maybe for whoever the next coach is next season. I love Max. He is a great leader. But unfortunately, I don't think he's done enough to earn that long leash that warrants him continuing to be the starter. That's just my opinion, but Geoff, I would love to get your opinion on that.
Chandler's going to start in Stillwater Saturday night. That's a given. I don't know what would need to happen for him to not start against Kansas. And when you get to the end of the season, do you really make a change one last time? I don't think so. So you got two competing things here. You got a quarterback that put up the best performance of the year or the last couple years that we've seen from TCU. And we acknowledge that Max Duggan does have a foot injury. If I was Max Duggan, I'd go get that foot operated on tomorrow. Don't worry about how well Morris does. Don't worry about the situation with the coaching staff. You go get healthy, because you may get a chance to start at TCU next year. You may get to enter the transfer portal and go start somewhere, or you may get the chance to go play safety and use that huge, fast body you got to light people up and go to the NFL. He needs to get healthy. And so, yes, Chandler Morris is going to start the next 3 games, in my opinion. And I hope Max Duggan prioritizes himself. And in doing that, he'll have the best chance to help the team. That could be to be quarterback next year. That could be to be, think of him as an H-back. Think of him as a H-back where they run a sweep with him coming across. I think he could contribute on both sides of the ball, or he could come back and be quarterback next year. So he needs to get healthy for his own sake, and for getting healthy for his own sake, it'll help the team. So there's no world where Chandler Morris is not starting this weekend, and I think he's going to start the next 3 games of the year. And hey, if the Frogs steal a game against Oklahoma State or Iowa State, I hope they roll the dice with Morris into the bowl game.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Starting Chandler Morris the rest of the way. I mean, at this point, I think we're 4-5 at this point. I mean, I definitely agree. Max Duggan should prioritize himself. I think there's no harm in letting Chandler Morris start the rest of the season and seeing how he does, giving him that chance to get more experience in game, and getting him more comfortable with the team, and then reevaluating next season with a healthy Max Duggan, and then seeing at that point who is the better option. But I think right now, Chandler Morris should be given that chance at this point in the season.
I agree. And to Geoff's credit, I think he hit it spot on with Max Duggan. You know, what more do you have to salvage this season? You know, let Chandler go and fight for a bowl. Let the team go and fight for a bowl. I wouldn't say you're selfish because you want to go get yourself taken care of. Let this team fight on. They're already fighting for another man. Let them fight for you. That way, when springtime comes around, and this is important as well, Geoff, he's got to be ready for spring. Because if he's not competing and Chandler Morris is the only one there, he can't put anything on tape for the coaches to dissect. So he's definitely got to do that. I really hope Max Duggan, he's just a great guy, a great kid, man, a great leader. I hope for the best for him. But Chandler, this is going to be a Chandler Morris podcast, but man, I loved what I saw from quarterback, man. I really did. I was so excited for that. But moving on here to a couple other offensive players. He's a bad man. He is so good. Quentin Johnston, repping Temple, 254, Temple Wildcats all day, hometown. Here we go. Quentin Johnston, man. Geoff, let's talk about it. Geoff and Adrianna. The guy is a certified beast. No one can stop him. He probably outjumps everybody. Hell, he even broke the record at Temple High School for high jump while he was in high school. So that probably assists to his wide receiver skills. I mean, Geoff, Adrian, I'll give you the reins, man. I'll let y'all go on, talk about how great this guy is, how he's mossing everybody and they mama. Nobody on Baylor could stop him. He flipped from, crappy Texas to TCU, made the right choice. He's balling now. He's not entering the transfer portal like, Joshua Moore. Sorry, Adrianna. I know that hurt a little bit, but Geoff, please take it away, man.
If you go back to the flea flicker where Morris flung it down the field, Johnston's behind everybody. You notice how everybody was so excited he caught it with one hand. It wasn't a one-handed catch because the ball was poorly thrown. It was a one-handed catch because the DB from Baylor had pinned his left arm against his hip, and he still catches it with one hand seamlessly.
Yes.
I mean, this is not like, oh my gosh, what a reach. It's like you can commit atrocious pass interference, and he's still going to haul it in with one hand. And so I think that play is a great microcosm of, one, these officials were dog crap. Oh, yeah. We got to get that on the record here. Yes. There were more penalties in this than any game I've ever witnessed. Oh. So we had awful officials. We had Quentin Johnston make an amazing catch, but we also had a quarterback that put it in the only spot where the receiver could get it. And those three things came together in a way that were amazing. And that's what made that whole moment amazing. It should have been PI. The defense committed pass interference. Chandler Morris throws a perfect pass, and Quentin Johnston's able to haul that thing in. There was obviously a sense of chemistry between Quentin Johnston and Chandler Morris, and it got to where it obviously threw off the Baylor defense. So when he goes into the end zone there on the south end, turns around, catches that pass all by himself, that was miscommunication of an anxious defensive backfield. Defensive backfields get caught up like that, not because they're not equipped, not because they fell asleep during practice, but because they get nervous that they're going to blow the coverage against a good player. And that's how you're not thinking while you're playing. And that's how you leave that 6'4" monster wide open in the end zone. The problems that Quentin Johnston causes are as much pre-snap as they are post-snap. And I think we see that when he's standing there wide open, which is not an uncommon phenomenon in this season with Quentin Johnston.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Quentin Johnston, he played amazing. I was so impressed. And going back to Jeff's point, you could just tell the trust that Chandler Morris had in throwing it to him, and that if he put it in his vicinity, that he would be able to bring it down and get the ball. But yeah, going back to the refs, this whole game was just so rough, so many penalties, and just it was out of control. But yeah, Quentin Johnston played amazing and definitely stepped up this game. And I mean, TCU definitely needed it, and he was that guy. So I was definitely very impressed with him, and glad to see him in that role for them.
Yeah, there was a trio of wide receivers that really stepped up for TCU. Quentin Johnston, 5 catches, 142 yards and a touchdown. You got Darius Davis, 5 receptions for 81 yards. Tay Barber, 6 receptions for 78 yards. So you love to see it. To Jeff's point, again, causing trouble pre and post snap. I just don't think Baylor's been pressured downfield as much as they were consistently in this game, because against that's a good defense in Baylor. Dave Aranda knows what he's doing with those players. Rayleigh Tejada, brother of former TCU Horned Frog, Ray Anthony Tejada, Jalen Petrie, all these guys, they know how to play football. That's a good defense. They haven't been pressured downfield as much, and they haven't played Oklahoma yet. They'll be playing them this week, but I just loved what I saw. Getting to the defense, outside of Duquesne, this was easily the best defensive showing of the year. Even in the last show, I commented how the interior of the Horned Frogs defensive line is kind of struggling a little bit. But in this game, I saw resilience. Baylor's motto is to run the football, and that's what Kirk Herbstreit decided to utter out of his mouth on College Game Day. Run the football. Instead, they ran you out of your damn own show. So instead, D. Winters, of course, NFL talent. He's all over the field. Jamoy Hodge. So glad they didn't call that targeting penalty. So glad that didn't happen. Secondary, Keon Stewart was playing consistent. Noah Daniels was playing consistent. Trey Hodges-Tomlinson, O'Shawn, Dylan Horton. Jeff, this was easily the best defensive performance outside of Duquesne this season.
It's the best I've seen the defense play in a couple years, to be honest. I think, we can always downgrade a team we beat, but this was the number 12 team in the country. And they've got some big wins. And I think their best win is against BYU, who's got 5 Power 5 wins right now. They might as well give the Pac-12 title to BYU, and Baylor manhandled them. Jeff Grimes is one of the most sought-after offensive coordinators after getting Zach Wilson into the NFL. He comes to Baylor, takes over their program. They immediately have an upgrade. They immediately start to improve on the side of the ball that Dave Aranda is not as well informed in, and TCU shut them down. Holding the number 12 team in the country to 28 points is a feat that we should celebrate. It is something that I don't think any of us actually anticipated. And so I was really pleased with the defensive line. I thought Horton played well. I thought Earl Barquette played well. I know he's not going to get a lot of praise in the stat box, but I thought Colt Ellison played really well at defensive end in limited action. And those are the kind of players that the Frogs have not gotten production from as much this year. The interior defensive line has not been what we wanted it to be, and yet the defense that came in this game, I don't know what to attribute it to. I know the players weren't staring at the sidelines waiting for the signals right before the snap, which I know is one of the critiques that people have had of Patterson. I'm not saying I agree with that, but that was a change that they made, and Chad Glasgow had them ready to go, and they performed. And I don't think you can really argue with the result on the field.
Yeah, early I know they were 0 for 3 on 3rd down, and then finally they converted on 4th down. But they had a lot of big sacks when we really needed it. The whole game they had a lot of pressure on the quarterback, and made him make some tough decisions that probably definitely led to some of the interceptions. But yeah, I think the whole game, just the defense was probably the biggest thing that was the most surprising to me. But the whole game, they just played phenomenal. I was extremely impressed. And I think the biggest thing for me was just, the whole pressure on the quarterback and getting stops when we really needed them. And throughout the whole game would be the biggest thing.
That deep pass, I can't remember who the receiver was, but Travius Hodges-Tomlinson was in coverage. Keon Stewart was trailing. Adrianna, in real time in the stadium, did you see immediately that it was an interception?
No, because they're like right in front of me, like at that angle, there was someone that was so tall and they were wearing boots. And I was like, are you kidding me? Of course. And I'm so frustrated. And that was like the only angle that I couldn't see at, which was very frustrating. And obviously, I'm short too, which doesn't happen.
So you like pushed them down the steps, right? Like, get out of my way, I'm trying to look.
Obviously, that was the only appropriate response.
There you go. You gotta submit yourself in the TCU student section. So guys, it was such a special weekend, but we do have to talk about some of the business that's going on at TCU. I have to address something right now. Honestly, I really do, because it's getting on my nerves. I talk about this with my friends as well off air. So, Geoff, please help me understand something. Everybody apparently thinks TCU is like on the level of Blinn College. Like, no one's interested in them. It's not a good job. They don't offer anything over other programs. And why would anyone leave their job for TCU? Clearly, they're misinformed. They don't know what they're talking about. They've never stepped foot on TCU campus, or maybe they just got rejected from TCU. Maybe their ex-boyfriend goes to TCU. Maybe, who knows? But Geoff, please tell the people why they are so dead wrong in their false opinions.
TCU is committed to winning at football. They have everything you could ask for other than a massive alumni base. They sit in one of the most fertile recruiting grounds in the country. They have a university that's committed economically to athletics and knows that the academics and the athletics go hand in hand, and that they know that football is the front porch to the university. They have an active booster club that believes in putting money behind the program without meddling with the program. I mean, let's be honest here. Coach Orgeron was fired 2 years after winning a national championship. Gary Patterson got twice the time that other coaches would have gotten with 4 mediocre seasons in a row.
Yes.
Part of it's because of the goodwill, and part of it is, hey, we want you to win, but if you're a good guy, we believe in you, and we'll give you a little more grace than other places. So it's high expectations with less pressure than some of the other places.
Mm.
The one thing, and I kind of referenced this, but I can't say this enough. The one thing, if you are a potential coach, that should get you excited about TCU is that we print money for the football program. 5 human beings paid for the new stadium in 2012. 5 people ponied up $250 million. 5 people.
You got their phone number?
I wish I could.
Right.
He's gone on now, but I wish I could meet Dick Lowe and have a beer with him.
Right.
I missed that man. yeah, this if you win, they will fund it. You know, this is one of the things that a friend of mine said, and it was on our message board. Gary Patterson did not build that stadium. Winning built that stadium, and when you win, they will give you everything you asked for. And so when Gary Patterson won, and they gave him everything he asked for. And when you win, they will give you everything that you asked for. So you will not find better facilities, a more funded program in the Big 12 in its next collaboration than TCU. I don't see any reason why TCU should not be the Cadillac job of the new Big 12. You know, Oklahoma is the best program. Mm-hmm. We all know this. They have the best team on the field. That's not up for debate. I don't care how much money Texas has. They are a perpetual loser. That is a perpetual losing program.
Yes, sir.
Other than, I only count national championships since integration. I'm kind of stubborn like that. I don't want to hear about even our program. You know, we got 2 titles back in the 30s. I'm sorry. That's a nice little award that you printed off. Grambling would have kicked our ass. Let's just get all this stuff on the table here. Since integration, Texas has 1 title. They have 1 title, and it was with the greatest college football player I've ever seen, which was Vince Young. Other than that, all they do is lose.
But also, like to say, if Colt McCoy didn't get hurt,
yes,
obviously that doesn't count. But I just want to put that out there.
I actually have a lot of respect for Colt McCoy, and I like him. I love Vince Young too. If he hadn't gotten hurt, there's a chance that they could have won that. But since they fired Mac Brown, what has Texas been other than permanently underperforming? Their problem's not money. Their problem's not geography. TCU does not have an This is we can roll into coaching here for a second if you're ready. If I can go there.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, what TCU is going to be able to offer is a lot of resources without meddling boosters. You know, Texas has a flow chart of boosters that have to sign off on everything. You got your first tier boosters, second tier boosters, you got your junior boosters. You know, everybody's like, oh, you got to be able to navigate the politics of Austin. No, you don't. You need a football coach that knows how to go out and win games. And whether or not they are polite at the country club is second to winning football games. And they're more concerned about the guy that knows how to shake hands and glad hand than they do the guy that knows how to win football games. And so I don't care about who wins the press conference. Our program is set up for people to go in and win. What you all don't remember, because I'm old as Moses. You know who was the worst human being at a press conference when he arrived? Oh, man. You know who never won a press conference? Is Gary Patterson. You know, and we all learned to love him because he'd go out there. I think I got this quote right. After I was sitting in the press room after they beat Texas in 2019, and somebody said, "What's it like beating Texas?" And he said, "Well, it's like asking your girlfriend out and you get a date to a prom and it makes everybody happy." Oh. Like nobody knows what you're talking about, but we love it because you just spoke Texas. You know, Gary was not a polished politician and we loved him for it. Texas, you'd get run out of town if you didn't know how to have that kind of media savvy. Now, I think we should be better on social media. I think we should have more access with the press. But this is a good job because we got money and we want you to go win football games. And if you do those 2 things, you're going to be set.
Adrianna, get on this conversation here a little bit. Get in here. Come on, speak some truth.
Yes. So, I mean, obviously I've lived in Fort Worth all my life. Great city, lots to do, very supportive community. Fort Worth's awesome. And I think it really is like an ideal situation here. TCU is awesome. And like you said, yeah, if you get wins, the money will come, what you need and what you want as a coach, and to help grow and continue the football program, like that will be provided if you win and succeed in the program. And I mean, you're following up after Gary Patterson. So I feel like the infrastructure of the team and the program is there. The challenge is the expectations are going to be super high because he is so loved. He did such a great job. So that'll be a challenge. Another challenge will be, I think, recruiting, just because the changing landscape of the Big 12. As far as like in general, I can speak to like the UT coaching situation. I know, I mean, again, I've talked about this before, like I've grown up a TCU and UT fan, and the UT obviously has a revolving door of coaches, and it's because of that booster and that booster influence. And yeah, if they don't like you, or if they don't agree with something that you're doing, you're out basically. And it doesn't really matter what it is, but they're on to the next person. And a lot of that is like the reason why they are losing is because they won't let someone come in, establish team culture, and build a program, get their recruits, and actually like let them grow in the program. And if you don't allow that, then yeah, it's never going to happen. And I know a lot, like Tom Herman, he won 4 bowl games in 4 years, including a Sugar Bowl. And then they're like, yeah, you're out. Part of it was, I think in his 4th year, yes, he did lose to Kansas, and he did not play Bijan Robinson. Those were 2 big strikes against him. But also Sam Ehlinger wasn't even his recruit either. I think if he had 1 more year with his own quarterback and et cetera, but like TCU won't do that. They will let you get your guys, give you time. They will be supportive. They'll give you what you need. And that's a big part of it, is like, you need a supportive community. You need people to get behind you, and TCU will definitely allow you. And then just in the Big 12 in general, I totally agree. It's the Cadillac job. It is the best. And I think it's just so underrated because it is still like relatively like new, even though it's not really. I think just because a lot of people haven't really like been here, I guess they just consider it as like not as good. But I think really it's considered unattractive just because there are several challenges. That's my take. Sorry, that was like a little bit.
Oh, you're good. You're good. The longer the takes, the more the listening. Okay. So look, I don't know how these guys do it. Having people in your ear while you're running the program. If I was a coach and I went to Texas, Chris Del Conte called me up. Hey man, let's have an interview. Okay, we'll have those other 20 mother efforts, sit in that interview as well. I want in writing. You're going to stay out of my office. You're going to stay out of my ear. You're going to stay out of my program. First off, pay for what you will for the kids, not for me. You're not paying me. Let's just say that. I can't do it. I can't be a coach. I can't be in college. I can't. I'll be too straightforward. But I do love the fact that I hate the way college is run by boosters, first off. But secondly, Geoff makes a great point. You make a great point about the boosters just staying the hell out of the way. Just, hey, you bring it on, we'll give you the resources. Boom, clear, cut, and dry. There is no, you play this dude, you play this dude. First off, didn't you graduate with a master's in science? The hell you telling me about how to start a safety and how to play a safety? Get out of my face. You graduated in economics, man. Get the hell out of my face. Come on now. Let's have some common sense. I just think it's foolish. This kind of makes sense. I've argued with a couple of SMU fans about this, that TCU isn't attractive. So I guess that, oh my gosh. So getting into some candidates here, okay? Because TCU is very attractive. And I don't even need to harp on it because both of you did. You're in the heart of DFW. Fort Worth is a beautiful city. You have easy access to some of the top recruits in the DFW area. Facilities, stadium, new renovations, great. Oh my gosh, you even get to go to the Fort Worth Zoo. Come on now. So now to get into candidates. I actually want to start off with a hot name. Geoff, I want to start it off, man. A lot of people aren't the biggest on this name. A little bit I can understand, but a lot of it I really can't. This would be a splash hire, in my opinion. But what is your take on Deion Sanders? Real quick, guys, if you are not up to date, per Jeremy Clark, he is a legitimate candidate. He's not just a guy on the list of interviews. He's not just a guy they're looking into. He is a legitimate candidate. He has interviewed already. He has not heard anything. This is per Jeremy Clark. He has not heard anything about how that interview went, but apparently he impressed. So with that, Geoff, what are your thoughts on Deion Sanders possibly becoming the next head coach at TCU?
Well, the latest news is that he did impress, in that he did make have a really good interview. Deion is Deion. That's just the bottom line. So I could tell you all the reasons why I think it would be a poor decision. I can give you all the reasons why I think it would be a poor hire. But someone framed it to me this way, and it gave me pause. I'm not going to have a hot sports opinion on this, but this was the best way for me to understand this. If TCU hired Sonny Dykes from SMU, and then Deion got hired by SMU in Dallas, would they get better? And would we be afraid of that? And the answer in my head is yes.
Whoa.
That's how I have been able to process, do we want Deion Sanders in Dallas with Highland Park money and SMU boosters recruiting in the NIL era? That's a different way to look at it. Do I think that the natural progression is from Gary Patterson to Deion Sanders? Give me a break. Do I think he understands how to shut down Lincoln Riley's offense? No, I don't. Do I think that he's got a master plan to be able to utilize the speed that we have at skill possessions, as well as like the 20% size reduction we have at the offensive line? No. But he knows how to run. He can get into any door of any recruit. Every recruit will take his call. Every recruit will take his visit, and it will welcome them into their home. And I do not want SMU or Baylor or Texas to have Deion Sanders. Now, you can probably spin a tale, or not spin a tale. You can conjure up in your mind a way that he could build a staff that would be able to execute the vision. But he would be, at its best, he would be a PR machine to fill the stadium and get a lot of recruits on campus. But at the worst, he would be the mascot and drive the Frogs into the ground. And I don't know that there's really any middle ground. I don't think there's 7-5 and 8-4. I think it's a train wreck, or I think it's 11-1.
I think what I hear is it's literally 50-50. It's literally, it can work out to the greatest, or it can plummet into the ground. It can. In my opinion, and of course, his coaching career is just now getting started. Been at Jackson State the last 2 years. Has been doing some great things there. From everything I hear, relationships with the players has been great. Their academics have been good. That's from what I hear. That's at Jackson State, a lower tier than TCU. What would be the expectation of him coming to TCU is the question, that would be my only thing. And the persona of Deion Sanders, what he brings to the program, recruiting, a spotlight, all that sort of stuff, I love. I think all of us love that. We all love what he could possibly bring media-wise, attention, hype to TCU. Coaching-wise, I can't discuss too much on the coaching because there's not a lengthy track record that you can go off of. You can go to a Sonny Dykes. You can go to a Matt Campbell. You can go to a Dan Lanning and say, okay, this is you. But when you pull up Deion Sanders, it's like that much. So I'm very curious to also how he even got into the conversation at TCU. Now, my hunch, did LaDainian Tomlinson have anything to do with that? They're great friends. Okay. They travel most of the time together. They had a night show for football in, I believe it was 2018. Him, Deion Sanders, Shannon Sharp. I would wonder that LaDainian Tomlinson had something to do with that. Geoff, what do you think?
I'm sure LaDainian Tomlinson had something to do with that. I also wouldn't be surprised if Deion called in and said, here's my resume, I'd like to apply. That's what he does. So I wouldn't be surprised by that. So I'm sure having LT on there helps. I'm sure having LT gives it a sense of credibility, but you just never know how these, you never know exactly. Does an agent call? Does a coach call? Does a coach call their agent? Mm-hmm. There's always a middle guy or a middle girl. There's always a handler there. And so like what I've learned in covering TCU for years is whenever you read these articles about so-and-so's name is associated with a search, 50% of the time, they're putting their own name out there so they can get a pay raise where they are.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with that. God bless them. There's nothing wrong with that. But, Deion's going to be able to go back and say, TCU, who paid Coach Patterson over $6 million, was wanting to talk to me. You can at least bump my pay up 30%.
There you go. Mm-hmm. Hey, Adrianna, where are you at with this?
Yeah, I'm definitely conflicted. I think for me, just I understand, again, like kind of going back to what y'all said, he can bring in the recruits, he can get the media attention, he can fill the stands. I just don't know how well it will translate to coaching. And like we said, he doesn't have a big track record, so we don't really know. But also I just think his persona in general, I'm a big team culture person. Like, I think team culture and team chemistry is so important. And I think that, it all starts. I mean, I talked about this on the last show about Gary Patterson, how it starts from the top down. And so I just don't know how well it'll translate from Dion Sanders to all of the players. And he's a fun personality, but I don't know, again, how well that'll translate in the locker room onto the fields and what the mindset of the team will be. And again, I think mindset of players and how you go into games and how you approach things is so important. And because of that, I just don't really think that he's the best option. But then when Geoff posed it that way, I agree. I don't want him coaching an opposing team. So then it kind of makes me think oh, maybe I do want him. But again, because of the mindset and because I think that stuff is so important, I think that probably outweighs how much I would want him coaching an opposing team. So I would say no to him. But it is still kind of 60-40 probably.
Let me tell you who hates Deion Sanders. That is high school football coaches in Dallas.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Prime prep, charter school, scandal, literally illegal activities.
Yes.
Kids that are graduating that are not eligible. Those coaches in South Dallas are prideful men.
Oh, yes.
Along that I-20, 67, 35 East corridor, they pride themselves on graduating students, on getting them into Division I programs, on raising the prospects of their life. And Deion comes in, steals the best talent out of public schools, which I know all those public schools hate, and then graduates kids that aren't eligible. And they despise that. And in a corridor where we got to have open doors and not closed doors, Duncanville, Cedar Hill, Lancaster,
DeSoto.
South Oak Cliff, South Grand Prairie, DeSoto. We need every human being that can play Division I to come out of those schools to love TCU and not have their coach say, young man, you need to go to Norman. You need to go to Austin. You need to go to Stillwater.
So as we start to wrap it up here a little bit, I want to get into some, hopefully our top 3 of coaches that we would have won. Me personally, the hot name around has been Sonny Dykes. Honestly, I struggle, the more and more I think about it, I struggle to understand where he takes this program. In my opinion, he doesn't move the needle. If we really want a guy that's going to win, gosh, why are we even looking at Sonny Dykes, in my opinion? Why? He's doing great at SMU. Let him continue to build that, get that pay raise that you're going to get to stay at SMU. Please stay there. Please stay there. But me personally, my top 3 are Matt Campbell's number 1. Jeremy Clark has come out. This is per Jeremy Clark from Horned Frog Blitz, and has said that Matt Campbell, if he was to talk with TCU, it would want to be after the season. And of course, with Jeremiah Donati, he has said that he wants to get a coach in before the December 15th early recruiting signing period. So that's going to be a struggle. But my number 1 is Matt Campbell. Get him here. Billy Napier, and then Jamie Chadwell from Coastal Carolina. Those are my top 3. Geoff, where are you at?
I've got Billy Napier number 1, and I'm not breaking news if you're on our message board. I think he's the search committee's number 1 right now. Okay. Billy Napier had an amazing interview. He is of the Saban tree. He's been a coordinator at the Power 5 level, and he's at a program that is where TCU would have been 20 years ago. Mid-major conference, underperforming program historically, surrounded by talent that has aligned it all. And they are now doing amazing things. Like they're going to finish in the top 25-ish for the third straight year. I would not be surprised if they finish the season 12-1, winning the Sun Belt. The Sun Belt is just as good as the American Athletic Conference if you take Cincinnati out, in my opinion. Billy Napier has done a great job there. So Billy Napier is number one. Matt Campbell's number two, but I don't know I don't know how real that is. And I'm just saying that out of my own opinion. TCU is a better job than Iowa State, but he loves Iowa. Matt Campbell is built to be the head coach at Penn State. Oh, Matt Campbell is, if James Franklin takes the USC job or takes might be a candidate for LSU, Florida's going to open. James Franklin is going to get out of Happy Valley. And I think Matt Campbell is built to coach. That's a Midwest guy. Ooh, that doesn't mean he can't, Gary Patterson was a West Coast guy and comes, all his coaching career and then comes to TCU and makes it work. So I'm not saying it can't, but Matt Campbell's my number two guy. And then number three, I agree with all of the hesitation on Sonny Dykes. I want September and October Sonny, not November Sonny. He always fades at the end of the year, but he would check a lot of boxes. He would be a really good hire, but I think the ceiling is 9-3. And I think Billy Napier could come in and turn this juggernaut in the new Big 12 into just like an absolute murder machine. Oh, he's physical. He's come to Saban tree. He knows how to use the talent that he has. He's not locked into one system. That's one of the things I appreciate about him. It's like, oh, I've got spread guys. Let's run the spread. Down there, he's got those big Louisiana boys and Southeast Texas boys, and they just line it up and beat you to death. But he's able to utilize the talent that he has. And I think coming in, we don't need a rebuild. We've got the third highest rated class in the Big 12 over and over and over. You've got all this talent and you can scheme to match what they've got to do what you want to do without, like Georgia Tech going from the wishbone to the pro offense. We don't have to have anything like that. Yep. Come in, match your plan with the talent that we have. Billy Napier is if I had to bet on Vegas right now, I think Billy Napier is going to be the head coach at TCU. All right. Adrianna, where are you at?
Yeah, I have Billy Napier as one. He has had coaching experience before. I think that's really valuable. He's doing well right now. And then number two, Tony Elliott. I think he would be another good pick. I've seen him in the conversation a lot. I think he would be, that would be like next step. Obviously, he hasn't been head coach before. And I know the athletic director said that he does want someone that's been a head coach in the past. So probably not as realistic, but we'll see. And then number three, I did put Sonny Dykes. I think that he has been successful at SMU, and I am not as high as him because he does rely on the transfer portal a lot. But I do think it is slightly realistic, and I think that he could be successful at TCU. But I was debating between him and Matt Campbell, but I think Matt Campbell just hasn't been as successful at Iowa State as I would want him to be to come to TCU. I don't know. Okay, we can have a separate conversation about that off record, Adrianna, because Jeff's got to get out of here. Good. But real quick, guys, if y'all, any parents out there that are listening to this and y'all got some, your kids are playing in the playoffs this weekend, best of luck to you. I know my alma mater, Belton, 6-4. Probably going to end this weekend because they're playing Duncanville. But, hey, go for it. But, Jeff, fun fact, man, two former back-to-back great TCU wide receivers, their alma maters are clashing in the playoffs this weekend. Can you guess who? Two former wide receivers? One is a former, one is a current. One is a former, one is a current. Oh, wow. I don't know. Tell me what you got. The Waxahachie Indians are traveling right here 5 minutes away to Temple, Texas to take on the Temple Wildcats. Okay. The home of Jalen Reagor. Yep. Jalen Reagor versus Quentin Johnston. I'll be attending that game. It is a great weekend in Texas. And golly, I love Texas sports so much. Geoff Mitchell from FrogCast, Horned Frog Blitz, man. Where can we find you on Twitter?
You can find me on Twitter at the FrogCast TCU. Give me a follow. I'm lighthearted on there. I don't argue with anybody. I just have fun. We post all of our content, and you can find me at hornfrogblitz.com. You can join for $1 a month right now. Everything you want to know about the coaching search, I promise you, it is. You need to belong to Horned Frog Blitz. Jeremy Clark and some folks on there, we are breaking down this coaching search and finding information. If you're like me and you're kind of a crack addict of TCU football, it is the place to be for. Jeremy does an update every day, and then he has a rolling update in another thread. We are at like the 14th update in 10 days here, or 8 days here with Gary Patterson, since Gary Patterson's was no longer the coach. Jeremy is spitting out content on there.
Hey, look, Jeremy, I look up to that man, all right? And I look forward to sitting down and having a conversation with him. Geoff, man, I can't express the gratitude. I'm thankful for you having the time coming on here. I've been listening to you for a while, man. Thank you for doing your job right, inspiring a guy like me to want to do this stuff for a living as well, man. Thank you. It's been an honor to share the mic with you, man.
Hey, man, I appreciate you having me on. You know, when I started our podcast, I didn't know what I was doing. We were like, I think we were the first. There might've been another one that started and then stopped. Mm-hmm. There was not. Now there is so much good content out there for TCU. None of us are competitors. We're all on the same team. I listen to other people's podcasts. I just subscribe to y'all. So I'm really glad that we've got a lot of people out there that have a passion for TCU football, and keep up the good work. And I'm honored to be on here.
All right, guys. Well, he is Geoff Mitchell. She is Adrianna Araujo. I am Michael Terrazas. Check back in with us again next week as we talk about hopefully the TCU Horned Frogs win over Oklahoma State. Maybe we might have a head coach by then. Who knows? But let's just get ready to talk about how great Quentin Johnston is. All right, guys. We will see you next week. Have a great weekend.